As an adult, not just a bodybuilder, but as an adult, you have to realize that everything must come to an end, and
Sure.
sometimes you have to pivot.
Hey guys, it's the Tominator, and in this one, I wanted to give my take on the whole Phil Heath situation going forward. Not that shit. We're talking about his future as a bodybuilder. And I know this is sort of old news now. After all, it's been over 2 months since the Mr. Olympia took place back in September. But the reason I waited so long to talk about this is because I didn't want to give the impression that this was just some sort of emotional response or an overreaction or that I'm just jumping ship now that Phil lost. No, I simply wanted time to really think about it logically. And after doing so, I think at this point it's pretty unlikely that Phil will ever win another Mr. Olympia title. Now, that's not to say that he can't, because on paper he absolutely can. The question is, will he? As I'm sure you're all well aware, Phil was recently defeated by Sean Flexitron Roden at the 2018 Mr. Olympia, ending his impressive 7-year winning streak. At 38 years of age, he definitely has time to make a comeback.
Everybody likes a comeback story, and everybody was already pitching that shit the minute I lost. They're.
Will you come back next year?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so at this point. I don't know. I've got to really weigh out my options. I really have to weigh out my options, both physically, mentally, and business wise.
Even if he plans to sit out 2019, that would make him only 40 by 2020, which would still be 3 years younger than the current champion Sean Roden is right now. So you might say time is on his side and he still has a few good years left in the tank. You might also appeal to Jay Cutler's comeback victory in 2009, where he reclaimed the title after losing it to Dexter Jackson the year before. After missing the mark in both 2007 and '08, Jay came back with a vengeance to win in convincing fashion in 2009, bringing his best package to date and dominating the star-studded lineup. So why can't Phil Heath do the same, you might ask? After all, even if you absolutely hate his guts, you gotta admit that if he manages to fix that midsection, he'd be the automatic favorite once again. Unfortunately for Phil Heath and his fans, that may not prove as easy as it sounds, however. There's two major reasons why I'm doubtful that he can make a successful comeback at this point. The first is obviously the physical component.
I think it just has to do a lot with the fact that you have a ridiculous amount of muscle. The fascia has stretched out. Like with Kai Green had the same problem. Ronnie Coleman had the same problem at the end of his career. But Kai is a master on the stage at controlling things usually. So he had a little, he has better abdominal control. Do you think that's something that you can just work on posing wise to control better? Because when you're in the pose, you look fine. It seems like there's certain times when you're just not, aware of it or whatever.
It's not that. It's the fact that it tore. It's the fact that it tore from the umbilical, from the belly button. Right. It tore. So if obviously when that happens, you do get winded. Period. It's just the way it is.
Right.
So you're like, well, wait a minute. I'm breathing through my diaphragm. Guys, I know how to fucking breathe. I've been doing this shit for a long time, and the problem with these conversations that people that like me will listen. The people that don't want to say that's an excuse. Mm-hmm. You did this, this, and this. I'm here to tell you this. Toward the end of the prep, things started feeling discomfort. And the doctor told me, you may feel discomfort. It may happen. Well, guess what, guys? Like, if you've had the same procedure, which a lot of people may or may not have, when you get as lean as I get, you don't think the fascia that was created to actually, from the sides, being pulled to the front to actually complete this procedure, you don't think that fascia is going to get taken away because I have no fat around my damn body?
Right.
It's going to get less and less and less, and it's not going to hold, right? So I had a quarter-sized mesh put in, just a quarter. I probably should have had inches, right. 3 to 5 inches maybe. I mean, shit, Sean Roden had a fucking hernia and shit, and we all know that. It took him inches. He had inches, not a quarter size. He had inches. Right. And it takes time to heal.
It's very difficult, pretty much unheard of, actually, for a dethroned champion to retake the title after suffering a serious injury. Jay made a comeback in 2009, true, but that was a different story. He didn't have any injuries at that time. The only issue was his conditioning, which is something anybody at any given show can pull off since it's largely just a timing thing, especially considering he had already demonstrated he could come in peeled, like in the 2001 Olympia and the 2003 Ironman. This wasn't like a case of Lionel Bayeki or Cedric McMillan or one of these guys who has never really proven themselves before. So once Jay managed to correct that, it was pretty much game over for everyone else because he had such a size advantage. Phil's situation is more reminiscent of Jay in 2011, where he had that bicep tear and lost, then sat out 2012 and attempted to bounce back in 2013, but barely managed to scrape into the top six. And even then, it was clearly a political nod in his favor over the up-and-coming Rolly Winkler and Big Ramy, who looked objectively better but finished in 7th and 8th, respectively. That's what I fear could happen to Phil if he elects to sit out 2019. You have to remember, it's very difficult for top-level bodybuilders carrying all that mass to be sidelined for over a year and then try to regain their peak form. Jay couldn't do it in 2013. Ronnie couldn't do it in 2007. Dennis Wolf is a more extreme example, but just look at how devastating his neck injury and subsequent 3-year layoff proved to be when he made his return to the stage at the 2018 Arnold Classic. Dude lost like 50% of his gains and was looking more like classic physique Wolf than big bad Wolf. Now, obviously, Phil's hernia is not the same severity as Wolf's spinal injury, but we're still talking major surgery here. And after 2 straight years of failed attempts to rein in that distended midsection, we can't continue to dismiss it as a mere case of bloating that can be easily remedied. I think if he could fix it, then he would have done so this year after all the backlash he received in 2017. The second reason I'm skeptical about Phil's ability to come back is the psychological element.
I think it's time that, I've been kind of waiting, not waiting for me to lose, but like waiting for this opportunity with being 7-time Mr. Olympia, because let's face it, I'm tied with Schwarzenegger, and a lot of people relate to that guy. Yeah. Outside of our sport. So it becomes very marketable. We live in a world where, it's all about association, affiliation, and partnerships. Sometimes these setbacks kind of give you a time period of clarity. And
sure.
and you got to think about it. Put yourself in my shoes. Like, you won 7 times. You didn't win number 8. But sometimes or I should say sometimes people forget what tools they still have in their hand.
Do those sound like the words of a determined champion, someone who was knocked down but hungry to get back up and keep fighting? To me, it sounds more like somebody who's considering retirement. Throughout the course of these post-loss interviews, Phil often came across as a spoiled, entitled child who's so used to winning he can't accept defeat, and as soon as he does lose, he doesn't want to play anymore. I don't sense the sort of die-hard warrior mentality you would expect from an elite competitive athlete at this level. It's disappointing in that sense to see how easily Phil seems to be giving up. Now, granted, this may very well prove to be the smartest choice in the long run. His overall health and well-being is more important than chasing Sandows, especially given that he already owns more of them than anyone else in history aside from Haney and Coleman, and is tied with the legendary Arnold Schwarzenegger. So it's not like Phil really has anything left to prove. His legacy's already cemented, and he will go down in history as one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, no matter what. It's just frustrating as a fan to watch him get so close to breaking the record and to stop now at the first real setback. But if Phil's become complacent with his career and is already focusing on that next stage of his life, on transitioning to family and business outside of competitive bodybuilding, then I doubt we'll ever see him hoist that Sandow trophy again. Even if he somehow magically regained his 2011 form, it's irrelevant if his heart and his mind aren't in it anymore. If he doesn't have that internal motivation or desire to keep competing, which sounds like that could be the case, then his girlfriend may have been right when she wrote that tweet, which I think is a shame. Anyway, that's it for this one. Just wanted to give my 2 cents on this subject. A lot of haters are probably saying good riddance, and it's looking a little bleak right now for Heath fans, but you never know. Maybe his recovery will go better than expected, and he'll change his mind and make a successful comeback in 2020 or even 2019. Only time will tell. Thanks for watching, everyone, and let us know your opinion in the comments below. Do you think Phil can make a comeback? And realistically, do you think it's likely at this point? As always, feel free to leave a like and subscribe for more. And until next time, I'm the Tominator signing off, and I'll be back.